The bar throbbed like a living thing. Engines idled outside, rumbling through the walls, while inside the jukebox fought to be heard over laughter and clinking glass. Neon bled red and blue across scarred wood, catching on chains and rings. Mara moved through it all with the quiet efficiency of someone who knew how to survive crowded rooms. She kept her eyes forward, shoulders loose, tray balanced on one palm as she slipped between stools and boots. The biker in the corner booth had noticed her the moment she stepped onto the floor. He was broad and loud, leather vest stretched tight across his chest, patches stitched thick with history and ego. Each time she passed, his gaze followed, lingering too long. He made jokes to his crew, low and crude, loud enough to test the air. Mara ignored him. Ignoring men like that was a skill she'd learned early. She delivered a round of beers to the long table near the window, smiled politely at a regular, then turned back toward the bar. The biker leaned out as she passed again, blocking the aisle with a careless knee. "Hey," he called, grinning, silver tooth flashing. "Smile for us." Someone snorted. Someone else laughed. Mara sidestepped, keeping her voice even. "Please don't block the aisle." She tried to move past. That's when he reached out. At first it seemed like a clumsy grab, fingers catching fabric as if by accident. Then the tug came. Sharp, deliberate. The sound of tearing cloth cut through the noise like a whip crack. The jukebox skipped. A glass shattered somewhere behind the bar. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Mara felt the cool air hit her skin and froze, breath caught halfway in. Her tray tipped. Bottles clinked but didn't fall. Around them, conversations collapsed into stunned silence. Faces turned. Eyes widened. The biker's grin lingered for half a second longer, drunk on power, on the attention. Then the room seemed to exhale all at once. Mara lowered the tray slowly to the nearest table, hands steady despite the tremor running under her skin. She didn't shout. She didn't cry out. She simply turned toward him, jaw set, eyes lifting to meet his. And as the torn fabric fell aside, the bar leaned closer, unaware that the moment they were witnessing was about to change everything. A hush settled over the bar, thick and uneasy. Someone laughed nervously, then stopped when no one joined in. The biker's hand hovered in the air, fingers still curled as if the moment might rewind if he held it there long enough. Mara didn't move to cover herself. She stood exactly where she was, shoulders squared, chin lifted. As the torn edge of her shirt slipped farther, the ink beneath came fully into view. It wasn't the kind of tattoo people got on a dare or after too many drinks. It spread with deliberate precision across her shoulder and collarbone, black lines sharp as steel. An insignia, angular, stark, unmistakably military. Beneath it were numbers etched in a narrow font, a date, a set of coordinates. To most in the room, it meant nothing. Just symbols, just ink. But a few faces changed. One biker near the bar sucked in a breath. Another straightened slowly, eyes narrowing as he leaned forward for a better look. They knew that mark. Every rider who'd ever done escort runs overseas, every vet who'd crossed paths with certain units, knew it. It wasn't supposed to be worn lightly. You earned it, or you didn't wear it at all. The scar below the tattoo caught the light next. It was long and pale, cutting diagonally toward her shoulder, not jagged like a knife wound but clean, surgical at one end and brutal at the other. Shrapnel. Anyone who'd seen combat recognized scars like that. They weren't stories you told for attention. They were the ones you lived with quietly. The biker's grin drained from his face as if someone had pulled a plug. His eyes flicked from the tattoo to the scar, then back to Mara's face. For the first time, he really looked at her. Not as a waitress, not as a joke, but as a person standing very still in a room that had suddenly tilted. "What the hell?" he muttered. Mara finally reached up, not to hide the ink, but to brush the torn fabric aside, almost absent-mindedly. Her expression didn't change. No triumph, no fear, just a calm that made the silence heavier. The bartender stopped polishing a glass. The jukebox hummed softly, forgotten. Even the engines outside seemed to fade. A memory surfaced in the biker's eyes. Smoke, heat, chaos. A symbol seen through fire and dust. A hand dragging him when his legs wouldn't work. His mouth opened, then closed again. The room waited. Whatever this mark meant, it had just shifted the balance of power. And everyone could feel it. The biker pushed back from the booth so hard it rocked on two legs before slamming down again. The scrape of wood against concrete sounded too loud in the silence. His chest rose and fell, breath coming shallow now, eyes locked on the ink as if it might vanish if he blinked. "No," he said, the word barely audible. His mind wasn't in the bar anymore. It was years back, on a road that didn't exist on any map. Night had turned the desert cold, the convoy stretched thin, headlights cutting narrow tunnels through dust. Then the blast, white light, a sound that tore the world open. Metal screamed, fire rolled. He remembered the taste of blood and smoke, the way his hands wouldn't work as the truck burned. He remembered thinking, this is it. Then hands had grabbed his vest. Small hands, strong hands. Someone had dragged him, boots slipping on gravel, hauling him away from the fire as ammo cooked off behind them. He never saw her face. He only remembered the shoulder in front of him as he was pulled along, the dark insignia smeared with ash, the same lines, the same angles now staring back at him under bar lights. The biker swallowed hard. His tough guy swagger collapsed inward, replaced by something raw and exposed. He took a step toward Mara, then stopped himself, as if afraid to cross an invisible line. "That was you," he said hoarsely. It wasn't a question. Mara held his gaze. Her eyes didn't soften, but something old flickered there, recognition without nostalgia. "You lived," she said simply. A murmur rippled through the room. The bikers at the bar exchanged glances, pieces snapping together. One of them let out a low whistle. Another removed his cap, clutching it to his chest. The biker's hands shook as he lifted them, palms out, a gesture of surrender no one in that bar had ever seen from him. "You pulled me out," he said. "I couldn't walk. I would have burned." Mara nodded once. No smile, no pride. "You weren't the only one." Silence pressed in again, heavier than before. The waitress wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a ghost from a battlefield, standing in front of them in ripped cotton and worn shoes. The biker took a step back, eyes shining, voice thick. For the first time that night, and maybe in a very long time, he understood exactly who was standing in front of him. The biker lowered his hands slowly, as if any sudden move might shatter the fragile truth hanging in the air. His face had gone pale beneath the beard, bravado stripped away, leaving only a man confronted by a debt he'd never repaid. He turned from Mara to his crew, voice unsteady but loud enough to carry. "She saved my life." The words landed hard. Chairs shifted. One biker exhaled sharply, another cursed under his breath. Without a signal, the mood in the room changed. The bartender stepped forward, silent, and draped a clean shirt over Mara's shoulders. She accepted it with a nod, slipping her arms through, movements precise and controlled. The biker reached for his vest, fingers fumbling with the snaps. He hesitated, then pulled it off and laid it on the table between them. The patches faced up. Years of rides, fights, loyalty. One by one, his crew followed suit. Leather hit wood in a quiet, solemn rhythm. No one joked. No one filmed. Respect filled the space where laughter had been. "I crossed a line," the biker said, staring at the floor. "There's no excuse." He looked up, eyes wet, voice breaking. "I'm sorry." Mara finished buttoning the shirt. When she spoke, it wasn't loud, but everyone heard. "An apology doesn't fix everything," she said. "But it's a start." She met his gaze, unwavering. "Don't touch people. Not here. Not anywhere." He nodded, shame etched deep. "It won't happen again." The bartender set a glass of water in front of Mara, then rang a bell once, sharp, final. "She's done for the night," he said. No one argued. As Mara walked toward the back, the crowd parted instinctively. She didn't look back. The biker stood frozen, vest still on the table, watching the door swing shut behind her. The engines outside roared back to life, but inside the bar, something had shifted permanently. Power had changed hands without a punch thrown. And every person there knew they'd witnessed a reckoning they wouldn't forget.